Good afternoon, you champions. My name's Kevin Graham and welcome to A Celtic State of Mind on a Monday. Today I'm joined by Ian Conroy and Colin Watt. Colin, it's the old school back on the Monday. It's the Monday Club back together.
I know, we've had many names, Kev, over the years. We've had the Monday Club, we've had the the Weekend Warriors, and we've done the Friday, then I think we had the Wednesday Wallopers as well. So, I mean, you call us whatever you want. We're here and we're always here.
We've had many names, but the majority of them haven't been kind, truthfully.
Pretty much.
if we take it that way. Ian, how are you? It's actually 11:30. You just told me it's 11:30 on Monday evening where you are at the moment in New Zealand, eh? So
it is, yeah. So yeah, I'm good. Obviously, good, much to chat about. You know, with the trophy day and stuff like that. It kind of hits home. You know, it's nice living here, but it hits home. You know, when I sort of see all you guys sort of chatting in the group chat, and you see the drone footage and all that kind of stuff. If you just do that and be back, go to the pub, go to the game, spending it sort of the evening with your mates, and then jump back, it'd be great. So it's kind of making me want to accelerate a visit back home.
I pity you couldn't get here for Saturday, because hopefully Saturday's another celebration that we're going to have. We will get round to talking about Saturday. I'm going to bring up Barry O'Sullivan first. Wow, that's an early one, JP, 7 a.m. We never stop supporting. Right, at this precise moment in time, Paul is actually at Celtic Park. No, he hasn't been called in by Michael Nicholson for Jim Orr's comments on Friday. He's actually playing at Celtic Park. He's playing on the pitch at Celtic Park. He's already put a video up of him walking out the tunnel. So he's not 100% sure how he got invited, but that's how you're left with me today. So I'm sure you'll see the video footage of Paul later on actually, playing at Celtic Park. It looked actually quite decent this morning actually.
I was going to put on the group chat for a laugh. It was like, you know, that reminded me of the film Casino, where Joe Pesci thinks he's going to become a made man. And he goes in, he gets assassinated. I was just hoping it wasn't the same for PG. You know, like we've upset them that much. He gets an invite and he goes in and it's under false pretenses, but no, it seems kosher. I saw the video and it's all good.
He walks into the changing room, then he gets bundled into a hamper and never seen again. Maybe
exactly.
That's what was going. Maybe that's what was going to happen.
I've not heard from him in a couple of hours, so I mean, there's every chance that's happened.
Well, he did post. I don't know what time he sent that video in the group chat. I think it was just after 10 o'clock. So it might have happened, but there was other folk in the video. It looked like they were. Unless they were getting put into different hampers. I don't know if that's the case. They were all invited for a reason, and Michael Nicholson's going to pick them off one by one. We may as well go back to Saturday. I must admit, 94 minutes of rubbish, then the fairy tale colony. And I think that's about all you can actually say about it.
That's the best way to describe it, isn't it? A fairy tale. Number 49 scoring in the 94th minute. Almost as if it was scripted to happen like that, Kev. Honestly, I've not heard a roar like that at Celtic Park in a long time. I mean, a couple of people were comparing it to the goal that George Cadetti scored after the whole SFA fiasco, the one that took 5 Live off the air for a couple of minutes. The roar was ridiculous. It was unbelievable, and do you know what? Fully well deserved. I seen someone mention earlier in the comments. I did say a few years ago that I thought it was a bit of a bad move from Celtic at the time, renewing James Forrest's contract. But do you know what? I'll hold my hands up and admit that, yeah, that was probably the wrong thing at the time. But James Forrest under Brendan Rodgers, Kev, he's just a different animal. He seems to get the best out of him. And this time last year, we were saying the same thing. He sort of brought Jamesy in at the right time. And it's all about squad management with someone like James Forrest, because he's not getting any younger, but he still has something to offer to the team. And seeing if I'm being brutally honest, he would be one of the first names on the team sheet for Saturday.
Oh, big call that. What you've got to remember, Ian, is James Forrest was in the last 6 months of his contract when Brendan Rodgers turned up the first time. And within a couple of weeks, he had got that contract extension. I don't think it's too far for the truth to actually say that Brendan Rodgers has made James Forrest a better football player.
I think he has, and also as well, I suppose a lot of that might come down to the fact that he's a standard bearer as well. So it's someone that was in the build the last time Brendan was here. The same as Callum McGregor. You know, there's a certain standard. You know, when new players come in, especially when they're not from Scotland, to look at these guys and see how you apply yourself, how you conduct yourself as a Celtic player, handle the pressure as well. It's not just turning up and playing for, you know, a nominal EPL team or any other team. You know, you're playing for Celtic, where the expectation is that you win every week. You know, that's a lot of pressure for anyone. And, you know, great players have came through the doors, you know, and sort of shrunken and kind of been buried under the weight of that expectation. So someone like James Forrest to sort of come through the youth sort of academy, make his first team debut and stay and make a contribution year on year. This is the 16th season, isn't it? He's done it. So I think Brendan has added more to his game, even in his kind of dotage now in terms of a footballer, his dotage. I thought he looked really lively. Obviously, he came on as a sub, but I thought he looks better than Kuhn at the moment. I don't know if I'd said that at the start of the season, but he looks more lively than Kuhn. He's still got pace. He still looks like he can sort of dart down. You know, maybe he's lost a little bit of it, but you know, he doesn't look like he's out of place at all. So I hope he sticks around a little bit longer, and again, he can pass that knowledge on to the younger breed that are coming through. And there's been some positive impacts with those younger players sort of breaking through in the past few weeks in the first team, which is pleasing to see as well. But in answer to your first question, I think Brendan is just kind of he's squeezed that sponge a little bit more and got a bit more out of him. And he's the complete winger for me.
Do you know what? I think the best way to look at it, what Ian's saying there, the best way to look at it is if James Forrest was to leave tomorrow, every single team in the SPL or SPFL, whatever it's called now, would want James Forrest as part of their squad. And he would start for every other team. I mean, he obviously wouldn't go to Rangers, but everywhere else, he would start for them. And that tells you the kind of calibre of player that James Forrest is, even at this sort of twilight of his career, that he can produce to the standard that is Celtic right now. You maybe not get it for 35, 40, 50 games a season, but see those 15, 20 games where we've spoke about before, Kev, the idea of needing players that can come in and take the weight off the first 11. James Forrest can do that, and there isn't that drop-off on a 1 game or 2 game basis that there is when certain other players come in to replace who you would say is your first 11.
I was going to say as well, just in terms of his intelligence, I don't know whether this is a Brendan thing or whether that it's kind of a natural thing, but for his goal, the way that he just dropped off and got that couple of yards of space,
yep,
to able to get the shot off, you know, just shows you again he's a class player and he's got that football brain.
There's a video of it's been taken from the North Stand, and it's right in line, and you can actually see when Johnson gets the ball, he makes that move out, and the left-hand sided St Mirren defender doesn't know what to do, and he gives himself that space. You can see it's written, but the boy I sat next to, Jay, he went like that. Oh, you couldn't script that, and I went, you could. You could have scripted. You could have scripted that.
Number 49 scoring in the 94th minute. It's just it was kind of written in there. I did look it up though. So that's his 109th goal for Celtic. He's got 109 goals, 110 assists. And in the regular 90 minutes of a football game, that's the latest he's ever scored in a Celtic jersey. The only other time that he scored beyond that was in the 114th minute against Dunfermline. That time they took us to extra time in the League Cup.
What about Caragandi?
No, 94th. That was the latest it's been.
Caragandi was injury time, It was injury time. It wasn't extra time when he scored against Caragandi,
I think it was like 92nd or something, 93rd maybe. But 94th minute for Forrest on Saturday. Incredible.
That's one of my best Jamesy moments, actually, the Caragandi one. Also, when I was having a look back on it, when Rodgers was there the first time in the Invincible season, one of the things that were getting fired about to Forrest, Ian, if I remember correctly, was that he hadn't done it against Rangers. He hadn't scored against Rangers, and he scored in the game. I think we won 5-1 that game. Was it 5-1? And I saw the goal, the BBC website, for those that want to look, have actually got the goal. And he went absolutely mental after he scored. It's probably the most enthusiastic I've ever seen him, Ian. And it just shows you, but we've had that wee laddie coming through to having that ovation on Saturday it's brilliant. It's you probably won't see that again. Once Callum McGregor goes, you're probably not going to see this again with two guys staying at the club for that long, Ian. Apart from Tony Ralston and Benzo, because they'll be there for years.
Yeah, they will, and well, why not? Good work if you can get it. But I think another thing that we've touched upon this before in past podcasts, the fact that they're sort of one club men, you're taken for granted a little bit as well. If you'd been a signing and you'd got that kind of productivity out of him, I think we'd all be sort of raving about it. But because he's gone through the sort of the youth academy, that kind of familiarity breeds contempt a wee bit sometimes. I think So, yeah, I think. What was the original question? Sorry.
I can't remember here. I can't remember either. Just it's your favourite Jamesy moment. Let's go for that. I'll put you on the spot then. I'll put you on the spot.
Oh, his first goal was pretty special, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a great finish.
That lob. Mm-hmm. And that was right back in the days of was that Tony Mowbray's era? I think it was, wasn't it? We had
Lennon. It was Neil Lennon.
Was it Lennon? Keane had Keane in the team. Robbie Keane was in the team, and I remember him making his debut all those years ago. When I used to go to the games. Favourite moment. I can't think, to be honest. It was maybe the bookend. The first one and the last one. Hopefully the last one won't be his last goal in a Celtic shirt.
I think you've mentioned a couple. Kev, Carragandi was obviously huge. In terms of Saturday there, as I said, I've not heard a roar like that in a long, long time at Celtic Park. And it probably is up there with that goal that he scored against Rangers, because it was so quick after the previous one as well. Everybody was just settling down. Jamesy cuts inside, beats a couple, and then sticks it right in the corner. And that day, the atmosphere that day is unbelievable. It
was.
Probably that one is the pinnacle.
Franny McKeown comes in for those who are listening in black and white. Was the Jamesy goal against Sevco in the 5-0 league clincher, the Lustig police hat celebration? Yes, it was. It was the Lustig police hat celebration. So, it was set up for James. I suppose we need to talk about the game. I really loved that Forrest scored, but what I really, really loved, what I loved as well, and the bit of the wee cynical bit is me, that the fact that cheating St Mirren got nothing out of it and they collapsed, and as soon as Forrest scored, their players absolutely collapsed for absolutely time wasting for the first minute to the very last day, and I was quite glad to actually see them unhappy, truthfully, for my own, for a football's sake.
Do you know what, Kev? It's the typical of many teams that come to Celtic Park. From minute 1 to minute 90, it's how much time can we waste? There's very little football played when teams don't come to Celtic Park to want to try and win. St Mirren, credit to their game plan, I guess, executed that well. They were assisted very well by the officiating. I don't know how many times that goalkeeper was told to hurry up before. I mean, he was never booked. He was never booked.
The referee was rotten. I don't know who the ref was. The referee was absolutely rotten.
I think it was Dickinson that was the ref at the weekend. But the officiating was honking. And do you know what? Celtic deserved at least a point out of that game. There's a couple of things. Obviously, that time of the season, you're either going to get a close game like it was last year as well, when we got the sort of late winner from Louis Palma, or you're going to get one of those performances where you stick 5 or 6 past a team. It all depends on where they are as a squad. I think you'd have got a better result probably if you played the same team that played up at Pittodrie the other night, to be perfectly honest. But it was what it was. We'll speak about after the game shortly, but in terms of a 90-minute performance, probably one of our poorest this season at Parkhead, but nobody cares as soon as that ball hit the back of the net from Jamesy.
Ian, there was a lot of players playing with the handbrake on. I think you could actually see that, especially our front guys. Maeda wasn't on it. I've just been texted some breaking news The worst kept secret in Scotland is that Hearts have named Derek McInnes as manager. Wow, I didn't expect that coming in. Ian, there were some guys playing with a handbrake on. I'm going to say Kuhn was one of them. Maeda, did they look 100% there? I didn't think. I'm now beginning to get annoyed with Engels, what he actually does. I thought Bernardo wasn't as good as what he was against Aberdeen, but sometimes Trophy Day does this. Sometimes Trophy Day is a meaningless game, really, but the fact that you're getting the trophy at the end, it means that you've got to win it. And you've got a cup final after it, and I think you could see quite a few players their eyes were on next weekend.
Well, I've said before about Jamesy Forrest and McGregor setting the standards. Did you see the interview with McGregor after the game? How angry he was. He was saying, "I can't think about it at the moment. I'm so angry about the result." And we could all say it was a nothing game. In the grand scheme of things, it was, but not for your professional pride, and not when you've got a cup final the following week. And I think with that kind of attitude, we can get turned over quite easily if we think it's already in the bag. And that's the worry that we've, some of these players might sort of, look at Schlupp. I thought he looked decent when he first arrived, but he's kind of got that EPL disease where it's like just 70% is enough. And it's like, and they can't get over the fact that, well, 70% it should be good enough. I get away with it. I've made a career out of it in certain other leagues, but again, not at Celtic. It's Kuhn. I don't know his body language at the start of the season. We're all body language experts. He looks a moody so-and-so, like young Elvis, doesn't he? Doesn't he barely sort of registers a smile when he scores or whatever? So whether that's just his makeup,
young Elvis marrying his cousin. Marrying his under his cousin. Hopefully, no.
Do you know what, Ian? Just to add on to what you're saying, though, do you think if Hatate hadn't picked up that injury on Wednesday night at Pittodrie, we'd have seen a bit more out of the players? I think that is probably they've seen what's happened to Hatate and went, do you know what? I'm tiptoeing, I'm in bubble wrap right through to that cup final. I do not want that to happen to me as well.
It's not a bad point. It's not a bad shout, to be honest. I hadn't really thought about that. But the thing is, though, we play football. The other side of that coin is the fact that the players that have come in, they're playing for, I suppose they're playing for a jersey on the Saturday. So you play with the handbrake on. It's counterproductive, isn't it? But no, I take your point, and quite subconsciously, that might be in the back of people's minds because it was a nasty one.
For me, I think, Kev, the biggest shock, well, there was two big shocks when I seen the team news on Saturday. The first one is that Jamesy never got 90 minutes. I was convinced he was going to be a shoe-in for the 90 minutes. He was going to play up front. Everybody was behind him and we were just passing the ball to him to try and score. And the second one was young Mercado not being in the squad, because I thought he played really well up at Pittodrie on Wednesday night when he came on. He looked decent when he came on at Celtic Park as well. With Hatate's injury, you're sitting there going, maybe there's a chance for him to get sort of half an hour, depending on the result on Saturday. And to the point of where we had to make that second change in midfield because we'd already bought McCowan on. So you bring on Jeffrey Schlupp, he goes to left back, and Greg Taylor becomes your midfielder. No offence to Greg Taylor, but Mercado's a better option in midfield than what Greg Taylor is.
Definitely. When I saw the subs as well, my first thought was Rodgers went with guys who he's used this season. He's given them that day. He's given them that jersey to maybe get on. But as you say, but again, if you look at the subs that we actually made, Taylor going into the midfield, us taking Maeda off as well. If that was a meaningful game, the subs that we made are no happening. They're actually no happening. The fact that it was a meaningless game. I mean, Radio 5 on Friday night, I was listening to it, and it was coming, and they were talking about the respective Tottenham and Man United teams. Now, I've got a point here. I'm not going to talk about Tottenham and Man United, but I had Andros Townsend and Dion Dublin on it. So they were both saying, when they were having a look at the Tottenham rested 8 players. Man United virtually went full strength before the Europa League final. The 2 professional football players on the panel says they would have wanted to play. Both of them says if we were fit, we would have wanted to play because there's 5 days recovery. Whereas us as fans go, no, what's the whole point? I mean, we were 4-1 up at Aberdeen when we brought on Atati, and now right away hindsight going, why did they even bring him on? There was no need to actually bring him on and give him that half hour. Is that just hindsight, Ian, or is it just the fact that we didn't really know the footballer's mindset because we've never been in a change room or in that position?
Probably a bit of both. I think that if you look at look at back in their day, well, maybe not so much Andros Townsend, but certainly Dion Dublin. The way football has changed, and it's like even in training, you've got all these statisticians and the guys that are monitoring them saying, they're going to get an injury if you don't pull them out of training at a certain point. I mean, that's unheard of. Or that would have been unheard of back in those days. I can certainly see the argument for having the minutes and the legs and wanting to go out there and keep that momentum rather than being rested, because you don't want to have too much time in between games and going cold. So I think it's just kind of the way football is.
I've seen Kev in the comments, there's a couple of people saying it's trophy day, and just going on what you were saying, it's like giving those that have contributed to the trophy that moment. For me, I remember back to, was it Ronnie Dyla's first season or second season when he played young Jack Aitchison. Jack Aitchison came off the bench and scored, became Celtic's youngest ever goal scorer. He was involved in the squad that day. Mm-hmm. Nothing for me stopping the fact that he could have put someone like McArdle on the bench on Saturday and gave him some minutes, because you never know, you might actually need him in the squad for next Saturday as well.
Was that maybe because with Dyler's last game, we didn't have a cup final after it because he was cheated out it by Alan Muir, funnily enough. So was it a point there that I don't know. I'm not a professional footballer. I don't know if
I just think you're going to
minutes of that. That's like
I'd be very surprised if he's not in the squad for Saturday, Kev. Because I think you get, is it not 11 subs for the Scottish Cup final potentially? You get a bigger one, maybe, I don't know, whatever it may be. I think McArdle, as a second midfield substitution, should be there ahead of someone like Jeffrey Sloop or Greg Taylor. But
I mean, Brendan's been talking about, hasn't he? And from what I've seen of him, he looks good. He looks really confident on the ball, and his touches, clever sort of behind, balls in behind, and passing forward, being proactive and passing the ball forward. He just looked like he just looks like he's got something. And I know it's easy. It's hard to sort of determine that in a couple of sort of flashes of games, but he did look like he's got something about him. And cup finals are time for heroes, and you never know if there's an injury or whatever. Bernardo and the replacements are not playing too well, and you stick a young boy on, and it's stalemate. However, it is the time to make heroes. We need to blood them in. We need to give them a chance. And like you said before, if it meant that Taylor was going to end up going into midfield, why really? When you've got a capable common player who needs the minutes and who needs the game time.
It's again, it's Brendan knows better than us. Knows better than anybody in the comments. Why he does, his record speaks for itself. But again, at times it does look, when we look at it as a fan point of view, it does look a wee bit baffling. Again, Saturday was James's day, and Martin O'Neill says Jamesy changed the game when he came on. Stilian Petrov says that, and they were all in the Jamesy Forrest camp. I thought Yang changed the game as well when he came on.
Yeah, it's good.
See, on Wednesday night, I love the fact that our two wingers went direct at the fullbacks. Mm-hmm. And took the game to the full. That's what I want my wingers to see. And when Yang comes on and Jamesy comes on Saturday, both of them run right away at the fullback. Especially Yang, he's got those crazy feet that I don't think he knows what's happening at times. Sometimes with his feet. And one thing about Yang, which has improved since January, since he's had that run in the games, he's no longer hiding. I don't think he's coming on. He's coming on and backing himself to actually make an impression, eh? And that's a big step for me for Yang, Colin, for the player we saw at the start of the season. Now, he might not be good enough overall, but I've seen an improvement for January, definitely.
That's the main thing, though, Kev. There's players that that have got bags and bags of potential, and it's whether they can get to the point of they can get through this barrier that sort of holds them back, that will say, you'll always be only as good as this. Or they can say, do you know what? No, I'm better than that and I can get to that next stage. And Yang kind of petered around this period where you're like, he could come on, he could give you 15 minutes, he could give you 20 minutes. He's very inconsistent. He's great 1 minute, he's rotten the next. But as you see, over those last sort of 3-4 months, he's getting to the stage of, well, actually, he's better than what he is inconsistent now. He is someone who's adding value to the squad. He is someone that looks as if he can develop and become a good player. He just now has to do that on a more regular basis. And opportunities are going to be few and far between when you've got wingers that are scoring 20 plus goals a season, because he's not able to produce that himself just now. But in opportunities like this, like Saturday, and like the game up at Pittodrie, as long as he continues to show that he is good enough, he will get those opportunities, because injuries will come in and then he'll have the chance to put that name on the jersey and say, that's mine, you've got to come and take it off me.
What do you think, Ian? What do you think about Yang as well? Is it? I mean, there was a lot of talk that he might go out on loan next season if we bring in another winger. I can't see that happening with injury to Jota. I think, mind you, we're going to get a couple of wingers back in Tullio and Palmer. And my old saying is, once this season's finished, everybody comes back in at pre-season with a clean slate. As a fact, for a fan's point of view, I didn't care about the manager right enough. I think he's maybe got his preconceived ideas already. The argument about, as I says on Saturday, somebody says, what's up with Narovski and Lagerbielke? Narovski's never done anything wrong and Lagerbielke looked all right. I says, well, from my point of view is they've played in Brendan Rodgers' only cup defeat. And there's a bit of bias that Brendan's got there, so right. he's still got to play them again. What do you think about Yangs? He has been impressive for January, and would you send him out on loan? Also, as well, I'll ask you, would you send McArdle out on loan? And he is in his last year of his contract, McArdle, is he not? Somebody says that.
Well, hopefully we don't sort of shoot ourselves in the foot as we've done with a few of the youth players, Cummins going away and all that kind of stuff. So I hope we start to get that guy signed up. He looks a decent guy, as I said. I'd like to see him stay to hang around and get more opportunities in the first team. But if not, like I've said this in the past as well, get them loaned out. And I think particularly loaned out to other Scottish teams in the SPL. So it does damage to our rivals, and also it helps the development of our players playing in the same league against the same defenders and midfielders and attackers and stuff. So I think on that one, I'd like to see McCarroll stay, but if not, then get him loaned out to another SPL team. In terms of Yang, I think he deserves his shot with the injury to Jota. What else has he got to do? I think he has. And like we said before, Brendan said when his girlfriend was over and it coincided with him getting that brace. It was St Mirren, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But and it is that in terms of that human element, he's a long way from home.
He's 22. He's a young laddie. He's still 22.
Yeah. So different culture. I know there's a couple of good Korean restaurants in Glasgow. But that's not enough to sort of hold your attention, if you're in another city, on the other side of the world. So maybe his girlfriend's back. He looked like he's got a bit of a swagger back, and he's had that. And when he first joined, I thought he had a bit of a swagger. It was him and Kwon, wasn't it? I think it was a pre-season game. Mm-hmm. It was against Bilbao.
Yes.
It was a pre-season game, and him and Kwon played. And I thought he had some, good feet. It can go both ways, and I agree as well. I like the fact that he's direct and he takes the fullbacks on. He can go outside or inside, and on the other side as well. I think when Jamesy came on at the weekend, the game was crying out. All Kuhn does, every defender knows he's going to be cut inside. He never goes outside, or if he has, I've never seen him do it. Whereas Jamesy was, so he was stretching the pitch more and going outside. That's what you want wingers to do. They want to have variation. In their play, that kind of throwback. I'm a bit of a I like nostalgia in terms of the way old wingers played in the old days.
I'm like you, Ian. I want my wingers to take on their fullbacks, get to the byline and cross the ball in, and be able to do something different, be able to drag the teams up the park. I must admit, against Hibs the week before, Kuhn was dragging the fullback up the park, and when Kuhn's on his day, even though he does cut inside an awful lot, it's very difficult for defenders to actually stop, even though they know that he's going to do it. But I do like my wingers to have a wee bit of variation, even though Kuhn's been fantastic for us.
Kuhn sums up Celtic as a whole. Celtic are probably one of the most predictable teams in Scottish football. You know how Celtic are going to play. You know how they're going to line up. You know the style of play they're going to have. But as someone said, I can't remember who it was, you've still got to learn how to stop that. So you might know that Kuhn's going to cut inside 99 times out of 100, but you've still got to learn how to stop it. Even showing him outside doesn't mean anything. He might just skin you and cut inside anyway. So even though he's one-dimensional to an extent, it doesn't stop him being a quality player. I think the only thing with Kuhn at the weekend was he just was sort of, I think he was wrapping himself in bubble wrap ahead of the cup final, or potentially ahead of a move this summer, to be honest.
It could well be. I mean, we'll talk a couple of more minutes about the actual game. I'll go to the comments. Gordon Coney, afternoon lads, lacklustre game with a fairy tale finish. I wouldn't have it any other way. Here with that, if somebody would have said to me, by the way, the game's going to be rubbish, but James Forrest is going to score with one of the last kicks of the ball, you went, aye, that's fine, I'll take it. Get in there, that'll do me quite nicely, and you would have took it. It was a good Celtic moment for the season. Paddy Lavert is questioning whether that was Goodfellas or Casino.
I thought it was Casino because I love both films. I thought it was I'm sure it's Casino.
Sure, it's Casino.
Oh no, actually, no, you're right. It is Goodfellas because I think in Casino he's out in the field, isn't he? He digs his own grave. He's out in a cornfield. Paddy,
that's it.
I bounce your superior knowledge.
Paddy knowing about gangsters coming from Belfast. There's something maybe in that. Sorry, Paddy. Paddy comes in. This is because you were cheeky to be here, Paddy. The last time there was a roar like that was when Kev last bought a round of drinks. I've never bought a round of drinks, so there's never been a roar like that. Les Watts, I think they're in a good mood today, Les. There isn't much light with this panel. Les, there's a light that never goes out, and it's all 3 years on this panel. Les comes back in and says he really loved what Cal Mack says about the game. I'm going to bring up Franny McCoy. Magnet 67. I'm happy. Cheer up, Kev. We're going for a 6 treble in 9 years. Life is great to be a Tim. Life is always great to be a Tim. It was even great in the 90s being a Tim.
Do you know what?
I'm going full Celtic die here. It doesn't matter if you win, lose or draw. Life's always great being a Tim.
Do you know what, Kev? I'll take the negativity away from you for a moment. I want to have a rant here. And I do apologise
because I want to have a rant as well. I want to have a Jim Orr type rant, but I know me and you're on this kind of same page.
So some popcorn.
Ian, just settle in.
Franny, question before we go on our rant. I think that's true. Franny McCoy comes in with Mr. Tatty on Saturday. I think we did trying to break down the St Mirren defence. Do you think he will be a major loss against Aberdeen? Because I don't think Aberdeen are as well organised as St Mirren. Colin.
I think Aberdeen, and do you know what, before we even get into this, I hope Jack McKenzie recovers well. That was, considering everything that happened this weekend, that was the most shocking bit that I've seen from this weekend. Getting hit by a chair by your own fans is atrocious. Whoever that was should admit that they've made a complete tit of themselves and come forward. That's shocking. The boy did not deserve that. Absolutely atrocious what I've seen there. But in terms of Aberdeen,
that was seemingly the seat had a ticket for the cup final as well.
Oh well, stories about that anyway. Aberdeen, they're going to be a different opponent to what we played on Wednesday. They'll have learned from that game, but they are one of those teams that if we get an early goal, they'll potentially collapse. And I think the bigger park on Saturday will play into Celtic's hands, as you say, with the wingers. So I don't know how much it will be about breaking it down. It'll be more Aberdeen trying to kick us and slow the game down, to be perfectly honest.
The two guys in the middle of the park, Shinnie and the Norwegian Swedish guy, the two dirtiest guys I've actually seen in Scottish football this season. Ian, my main thing is what I've seen of Aberdeen this season against us. They're not as organised as what St Mirren were. They're not as organised as some of the teams that we've struggled to break down. And I don't think Tatty's creativity will be as missed as what it was on Saturday, especially if our wingers turn up.
Yeah, but we've had, obviously we played them, so they've got a chance to study and reset and nullify. I agree, we are probably the most predictable team in the league. Despite the fact that we can steamroll the teams, you might know what we're going to do, but we've got the quality to sort of still steamroll over you. because it's a cup final. It's in neutral territory, albeit it's in Glasgow, but still in neutral territory. There could be a perfect storm where we've got some complacency in our camp, thinking we're just going to turn up and win it. And we could, if there's one or two players that are off it, or if they really, really are working steadfast at nullifying us, frustrating us, as St Mirren did, then they could pull off a shock. So as long as we don't sort of fall into any of those traps, I don't think Hatate will be as much of a miss as he could have been. Certainly not in this sort of the earlier part of the season when Aberdeen were pulling up trees.
Definitely. Before we go on to Trophy Day and what Trophy Day was, Stephen McGrory, only 8 subs in the Scottish Cup final, Colin, so Brendan has some tough divisions to make. I agree that McArdle should be in ahead of Sloop. I agree as well, but it won't happen, me. That's
He'll probably go for experience, but I just think if you're not going to play Sloop in midfield, you don't want to turn to Taylor. You've got to go for someone like McArdle, who's shown in his limited appearances that he's got something to offer.
Right, Colin, over to you. Let's get this started. Let's go. Right, Ian, you go and get the popcorn.
I'm going to sound like a right grump here, right? But so we'll set the scene. James Forrest has just scored his 109th goal, his 16th consecutive season. The buzz around the place was phenomenal. The whistle goes, everyone is delighted. And then what? It was like standing outside of a JD gym listening to the playlist that was going on. It was a shambles after full time. First of all, the technical issues for Liam McGrandles. Okay, fair enough.
Who was booed when his name was announced?
I never even heard that bit, but I mean, then going into some sort of club music, so, as I said, stuff you'd hear in the gym for 10 minutes. The atmosphere was flat because the PA system is that loud that it's piercing through people's ears that no matter if they tried to start a Forrest chant or whatever sort of chant, nothing would have got heard over that. Then you've got the lift, the trophy lift. Some David Guetta song comes on. I watched it back this morning. 35 minutes was the whole presentation from full time to the players walked off the park. It was 30 minutes in, Kevin, before there was a relative Celtic song played. They played Just Can't Get Enough as they came past the away section back towards the main stand. By that point, 90% of the stadium had left the ground. Now, I thought it was maybe just being a wee bit of a moany person. I'm getting older. I thought, yeah, do you know what? Maybe I'm getting a bit grumpy. I went back and watched 2024's for when we lifted the trophy. Again, we'd just scored quite late on. Palma scored the winner. McGrandles came out, played a 9-minute set, played Celtic songs, got Celtic fans singing Celtic songs. The trophy list came out. There was the 4-leaf clover. There was You'll Never Walk Alone. There was the same sort of like Live It Up played the same way it did on Saturday. But do you know what? The crowd was energised because they'd joined in, they'd warmed up. The vocal cords were nice and warm, Kev. They were right in for it. But it was the flattest atmosphere I've seen for a trophy lift. And then for me, pure and simple, it's down to the music that was played at the end of the game. It killed the atmosphere. It killed it from the point of everybody being on this incredible high to just sort of, right, well, where's the trophy? We're just waiting on it. And I know this isn't going to go down well with everybody, but for me, the second trophy lift in front of the main stand, that was the moment for a 30-second or 45-second, whatever the chorus is, Simply the Best. That was the time. Rub it in. Don't put it out on a tweet hours later and continue to throw wee sly digs on tweets. Do it in the stadium when everybody's watching. It was a complete waste of time after that. After the trophy lift, you'd have been as well just going out of the stadium because there's nothing there that you'd have seen.
I think I'm going to agree with you. One of the things in the stadium that I actually thought it was very, very stage managed. Now, these things usually are stage managed to a level. Trophy Day is quite funny. It's like I always compare it to Hug Money, right? Because you kind something's going to happen at midnight and you get told you've got to enjoy this. And it's and it gets to a point where they go, oh, this is going to be good. But as Colin says, it was so loud, and I didn't like it to enjoy myself. I like it to happen naturally. I like the sporadic nature, the organic nature of it, and that's how sometimes I think like you should just get the trophy after you've won the league, because the players are higher because they've just actually got across the line. The players have got a cup final next week and that to go, right? When you saw the flags, the cheap paper flags that they put on the seats in the stadium, the cheap plastic, the cheap branded paper flags that they put on in the stadium, it looks like they had went to Witherspoon's, got a whole load of straws and put wee paper things on them. And actually, it was whoever came up with that idea should be in a darkened cupboard this morning at Celtic Park, no wanting to show their face. Whoever thought that was a good idea, like, should be gone. No, they shouldn't be. They shouldn't be coming out. With regards to the trophy lift and that, it is now just a big, massive Instagram. It's to gather content. There's that many photographers on the park. Players are getting dragged here and everywhere for pictures and interviews and that. And the players are getting told not to engage with the fans. The day the lap of honour, which is about 25 yards away from the actual stands, any scarves that get thrown on the pitch are thrown back by the stewards. You must not be allowed to actually touch the peasants' scarves or stuff like that. And you've got a PA that is so loud that you can't sing. There's got to be an organic nature to it. I go back a couple of years with the Postecoglou, and even last year's, Colin says, there were Celtic songs played, but there was when the team were going round, the PA went off and allowed the fans. Jamesy should have been getting sung by the rafters all the way around that, like all around that stadium. We shouldn't have actually been listening to what we were actually listening to. It was too loud. I think the PLC wanted to control the narrative. They didn't want us to sing. They didn't want us. It was meant to look good on the telly, and when I went back and watched it on YouTube, it did look good on the telly. But also, as we'll see, the events company that does these trophy lifts, they get their money very easy. Every trophy lift's exactly the same. Like anywhere in Britain, when you have a look at it, it's exactly the same, eh? And look, it's great seeing the Waynes there. It's one of these things. When you get to trophy day itself, but you see a lot of young kids. People bring the kids to actually to see the trophy lift, eh? And it's great seeing their faces and all of that, and it's brilliant, eh? But sometimes they can be a damp squib, and I think Saturday was. And also think the players didn't really, I don't know, there was no Kyogo, there was no Jota or something like that. Today's son break away from the norm of, right, let's stand in front of the North Curve, let's stand in front of the boys and do something that's unscripted. Everything just seemed really, really scripted. And it was poor. It was actually poor.
Kev, as you say, you can go and watch it again on YouTube. It's there. Celtic went live on YouTube at full time, as they do when the trophies, when it is trophy day. So they did it last year, they did it this year. I went back and saw the two of them. The one last year was 45 minutes long, and this year was only 30. That tells you how quick they wanted to get round the stadium and back out, and away they go again. I think there was pictures of Adam Ida in Glasgow Airport heading towards Cork at like the 6 o'clock flight. It was so commercialised, everything on Saturday. It took away from the authentic nature of fans wanting to go and enjoy the game. From everything from taking away the North Curve's tifo that they'd obviously planned for months and they'd fundraised for, to bring in these, as you say, cheap plastic, paper, whatever it was, flags, to the just even the music that was played. You wouldn't, if you were there, you wouldn't have known it was a Celtic event. There was nothing Celtic about it. If you go back and watch last year's, I recommend everybody goes back and watch last year's. Jerry McCulloch and Peter Grant are standing at the side of the park, and they come away from them two for a couple of minutes and listen to the fans singing The Fields of Athenry, and they say, listen to this atmosphere, it's incredible to be here. And they go round and you can hear all the fans joining in. I don't even think 90% of the fans in the stadium knew the two songs that were playing in between the team going off the park and them coming back on to pick up the trophy.
I couldn't tell you the song that they played when they lifted the trophy, Colin. Ian, this is one of the things, and it's a thing of modern football. It's get the trophy, get on your betting company branded shirt, and get the photos out for social media. And it looks good on the telly. I must admit, it does look good on the telly. But when you're in the stadium, there's something missing out. There was a wee bit of connection missing on Saturday. That's what I thought. And you go back to previous ones where, like Postecoglou and that, as Colin says, there was a connection there, and that was sort of missing on Saturday. Where we was.
We're looking again to the EPL, which I think is sad. And you look at, like, I mean, I use the EPL as an example quite often, right? And I watch all football. Look at Man City, right? And look at sort of the modern fan in the EPL. Man City are one of those traditional clubs that used to have a hardcore of proper fans, right? Great fans. Now they've kind of become a bit of a laughingstock. They play Hey Jude, nah, 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 to get the crowd up, because there's so many tourist fans in the EPL. They're having to pump music like this to high dBs, you know, and kind of, you know, try and get people going, try and get some kind of atmosphere in the stadium, because it's not happening organically or naturally anymore, because over the past maybe 15, 20 years, it's kind of died down, and you've got all this kind of, again, this tourist sort of football culture. Celtic never had that. We don't have it yet, but if we keep seeking it, we will get it. And I think that is essentially what happened at the weekend. It wasn't appropriate, and it was too loud. I mean, you saw Brendan getting interviewed after the game, and the players getting interviewed. They couldn't hear themselves think, you know. So it was stilted in that sense as well. But like Jock Stein said all those years ago, you know, football without fans is nothing. And to alienate the fans who are actually in the same orbit, the same stadium as the players, but there's that invisible barrier created by that noise and created by the fact that they're being guided and told not to interact with the fans, you know, not to take scarves and stuff and hats like they used to, that traditional exchange that used to happen, you know, and that kind of connection with the fans and the players. It's becoming sterile, and we've got to be careful what we're doing, because...
No, let's say winning the league's no sterile. We really enjoy winning the league and winning games of football. We enjoy the spontaneity of football. We all enjoyed James's goal. We all enjoyed James's goal.
I don't mean that. I mean
just at the talk in the comments, they're saying we're moaning about it. No.
Oh, right. No. No, I'm talking expressly about the choreographed nature of the celebration done by the club. Or outside company paid a lot of money for to organise it. It's just a cookie cutter from the EPL. It's a cookie cutter, cut and paste, however you want to describe it. There's nothing organic about it. And like that analogy you used before about like waiting for the new year and the bells coming in, it's always an anticlimax. The more you build something up, it's like if you watch a great film or a great album. If you think it's the most amazing thing you've ever seen or heard, if you tell someone about it, no matter how good it is, there'll be an anticlimax then, because it's never going to reach the highs of the thing you've described, even though it's blown your mind, you know. And I think, again, things have to be organic. They always were at Celtic. That organic. We've got great fans, you know, best in the world, as we're all concur. So it's deny that atmosphere is just ridiculous, really. You're missing an open goal.
Want to know what I think, Ian, and what really tipped me over the edge is when the PA guy played Free From Desire. When have the Celtic fans ever sung that generic song?
Oh, honestly,
when have we ever sung that song, which is lower league England pish? Yeah. Paul's not here, so I can actually have a wee sweary word in it, right? And I'm going, I says to my daughter, I went, why? Has he just went to a generic football playlist? What's next? Sweet Caroline? What's going to come on next? And that was the point where I went, no, this is kind of went too far. The PLC just want us to be another football club. They just want us to be another big football club. And what they've got to realise is our fans make us better in the club, and they've got to trust us at times to actually create an atmosphere that's sellable. And on Saturday, they just completely made it an absolute mess here.
Do you know the point of this whole conversation is, Kev? It's just asking Celtic to be better. That's it. It's not slagging for the sake of slagging, as some people in the comments seem to think. Like, but there's certain people in the Celtic fan base that think that a Celtic board member could do no wrong, or a Celtic football club can do no wrong, and if you moan, you let them across the city. Look, you, as we spoke about earlier, James Forrest is setting the standard for people on the pitch. We want to set the standard across the whole country. We are the best team in Scotland, and it's about time that we start acting like the best team in Scotland, like the most successful team in Scotland, and start doing things right instead of bringing in this commercialised nonsense that we had on Saturday. I had a world-class day on Saturday. It was outstanding. Went to the game, had one of the best moments of recent years when James Forrest puts that ball in the back of the net, and you see a trophy lift, you're like, right, okay, where are we going next? Right, walk down to the Tron Gate, walk through the Tron Gate, saw everybody celebrating, everybody having a good time. Look, there's some tadgers in the support that cause a bit of trouble. Always going to be. You could go into the details of that. Let's be honest, there's less trouble at that than what there is at certain things like Transmit every year. But you know what one's going to get the press? It's the one that Celtic's involved in. And I went into a couple of pubs in the city centre, got a train down the road, and had a night with my pals. I had a great day. It was brilliant. But it doesn't mean that you can't speak about the bits that are bad. We just got to ignor them. You've got to highlight them and say, do you know what, make it better. How can you do it?
The thing is, though, the people that are organising it, they don't get it. And if you have to explain it to people, then it's never going to work. It's got to be the people who are making these decisions, or certainly if they're not making decisions, they involve the people who do get it. You know, and again, we've talked about fan engagement and things like that. You can't not get what Celtic's about, and they've completely misread and got it wrong at the weekend. It was embarrassing, and I just picked up on that when I'm over here. It was that loud I could probably hear it from my garden.
It was one of the things. I was walking out the stadium and I'm going, I just must be getting old. And I've always had an unusual relationship with Trophy Day anyway, because I always think sometimes it can be like, I didn't like things being too stage managed. I didn't like going to a gig I didn't like going to a gig and either going to end in that song and the fireworks are going to go off and that. I want a wee bit of spontaneity. And I know for the fact that it's not like a cup final. It's not like a cup final, because last season's cup final, when everybody ended up on the track, was great. Then everybody got put back in. Then you had the big "You'll Never Walk Alone," absolutely organic. And I know that
that's the example of getting it right. That image was getting it right.
Look at Hibs on Saturday. They had another moment when all the players stood in front of their big stand that they could never fill, and they sung "Sunshine on Leaf." We've just got a championship trophy, and whoever our board never allowed us to have that moment. They didn't allow that moment of connection because they were too busy taking the players away for pictures and making sure they were getting all the branded content, and that's what we're going on about. And I had a great day as well. I had an absolute brilliant day as well. But there is some things that you've got to, and it all started off with them banning the fans' tifo. You can't get a branded PR company in to actually create a tifo because it's not going to work, because you're just going to get generic rubbish, and that's where we are. There's quite a couple of great comments. Colin Bean, the board want to control us. The whole thing was stage managed by them. They took the soul out of the day. Let's have a look. My Ball, don't understand why the team didn't go right round the stadium and show the trophy to every section. Main stand, family section are always to miss out. Shame for the kids sat there. Definitely. I love the times when Big Roy Aiken would just grab the trophy and just run right round the track with it, just showing everybody it. Maybe that's me showing my age again. Monty, you should play the Quadrophenians or the Celtic Cross Collective, Monty. And Alpha 0964, bring back Tiger Tim. Let's bring back Tiger Tim for the wind-ups and stuff. And get a grip. I like that name. I've hardly noticed that before. Tiger Tim tried to chat me up at the dancing in Coat Bridge. Teeny wee guy. I think there's more to that story that we want to know. That we want to know. Saturday, Colin. Have you been lucky enough to get a ticket for the game?
I have. Yes. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the game on Saturday. It is the hopefully dotting the I's and crossing the T's of this season. We're going to need to put in a 90-minute performance, 100%. Aberdeen, as poor as they've been over recent weeks, aren't going to be any rollovers. be interesting to see what their team is, because if they go with the same team that played at Pittodrie the other night, could be a long afternoon for them. As I said earlier, that incident with Jack McKenzie was atrocious, and I hope that he is actually fit for the weekend, because he doesn't deserve to miss out on that through the stupidity of certain people. They've been on a terrible run of form, Kev. When you look at it, I think over the last, 21 or 22 games, they've maybe got 22 points. If it was run like that, the season ran from there onwards, they'd have been relegated, the form that they've been in. So they are going to need to turn up and put a performance in. Celtic need to up that performance from Saturday. As I said, for me, I would start James Forrest. I think he's earned it over the last few weeks. Somebody that can come in and actually have an impact on the game. It's just, for me, the talking point would be, who do you go with up front? Do you go with Dyson Maeda, who is obviously looking a bit tired over the last few weeks, but it's understandable considering the legs he's put in going across the world, basically. Do you go with Adam Ida, who's a naturalised central striker? Or do you go with Johnny Kenny, who has looked actually not too bad over the last sort of game and a half since he's played? And for me, I think it's a very close decision between all three.
Johnny Kenny is quicker than what I thought. When I saw him live, I went, "Oh, you're actually quite quick." And I like that he puts himself about. Ian, I think the bottom line is, I think the team that started on Saturday is the team that starts the cup final, and I think that was always Rodgers' plan.
I think so. Yeah, I agree. Like I say, I think the only sort of two sort of baskins I can see really are, the fact that some of our players think that they can just turn up and win, or they play with a handbrake on, unintentionally, and or that Aberdeen have had time to obviously study in depth the game where we beat them 5-1, study, and look to nullify us and cause an upset that way. But both of those things aside, I think we should be strong enough to win and win convincingly. So. And yeah, I think it'll be with the team that started on Saturday.
Aye, we've already spoke about Rio Hatate. I don't think, as I say, I think Aberdeen are a completely different proposition for St Mirren. I think if our wingers turn up, we will create. There's no choice now in goals calling. Michael starts because it looks like he's had no reaction whatsoever to actually to playing after he fractured the shoulder.
No, it's really impressive that he's came back, considering at first there was talk of him not coming back to sort of September time. So the fact that he's come in, it's a bit of a shame for Sinisalo, because I thought he did quite well as Schmeichel's deputy, coming in and playing the games that he did. But Schmeichel's your first choice keeper. If he's available, you play him. But I don't know, Kev, we've not mentioned it yet. What did you think of Greg Taylor's repost after the game? Do you think that's a farewell to the fans? Lived it, loved it. What was it? Lived it, loved it.
English is no my top anyway, but he did say it in a past tense. So he did say it in a sort of past tense. But then it could be like one of the wee gadgets you see on X all the time, who's saying, "I'm leaving this fascist hellhole," and 2 weeks later is still there, posting on it. So it could be like that. I have heard that he is going to sign a new deal, but that Instagram post kind of, for me, says that he is Oscar.
I think he's done well since he's come back in, since he's won his jersey back off a slip. I think he's done really well. Kieran Tierney, I don't know if you saw the Arsenal game yesterday, the ovation that Kieran Tierney got when he came off the bench. Even Arteta saying after the game that it'll be a huge loss to the squad, and he wishes them all the best at Celtic. He's obviously going to be a huge part of the squad next season, but he's had his injuries over the years, and that can be very difficult to manage. And the fact that he's going to be probably playing consistently for the first time in a couple of years, you still need somebody that can come into the position and sort of play these games that he's not going to be able to. So it just comes down to whether you go with someone that you know is tried and tested in Greg Taylor, or you dip into the market again. And it's a bit like when Ralston signed that new contract when Ange came in at first, Kev. Ange, we never had a right back. So he just went, "No, what? You know, you've been here. You know the score. There's a 3-year deal," and it seemed to work for him. So I don't know. Maybe the possibility of Greg Taylor having to work to get that position next year, you might see the best out of him.
What do you reckon, Ian? For me, if Taylor leaves, he goes with my best wishes. He's been there, seen it, done it, as he says, loved it. He's had some great performances. Sometimes it's just time. It's football. It goes in cycles. Players move on, and I think most folk would maybe say that we're getting an upgrade with KT coming back.
We are, and Brendan said recently as well, and I was glad to hear him say it, that he thinks, you know, even in successful teams, it needs to be refreshed. So he's been outspoken in the fact that he wants Greg to stay. So if Greg doesn't stay, you know, he'll go with my best wishes as well. But it's not the end of the world at all. We can get better. I think he's good enough domestically, but he's been found wanting in the bigger games, I think, you know, and that's just the way it is. And you know, if we want to continually evolve, we need to be looking at higher quality. KT's higher quality, but I do think that we need to spread the load with him. As you said, you know, it's you know, just to sort of hopefully, if we spread it over and we all alternate his game time, he's not got that chance of maybe getting any of these stress injuries that he's been getting.
I was pleased at KT. I was driving yesterday. I was listening to Radio 5, and he came on for Arsenal in that game, and it was nice to hear the Arsenal fans singing his name. There was, and that was really quite pleasing. And I know one Arsenal fan who's helped us on this site, and he really loves him. He says that he wishes more of the Arsenal players had his winning character and his winning mentality, and it might have been better. But again, it's injuries that have probably held him back. I'll go to the comments just before we finish up for the day, lads. Pat comes in. Great points, fellas. Some women ushering the team round the park as quickly as possible, especially up the north stand side. I noticed that there was somebody who was actually forcing the team round the park quite quickly. A rebel treble. What happened to starting your own atmosphere? Aye, we wanted to, but we couldn't actually start anything over the loudness of the PA. That was the reason. That was the reason that nothing started.
Just on that point, see if you go back and watch the YouTube video, you see when the players get to the North Curve, and the Celtic fans are trying to sing, like they're trying to do a chant. I can't remember if it's Forrest or whoever it's for. I can't remember, but you can't hear it over Roll With It being played. Mm-hmm. All you hear is Roll With It. You can't hear what the Celtic fans are trying to sing. So you are trying to create an atmosphere. What we're saying is, let's make it more organic than forced, because forced fun is not fun. Definitely not.
And Anne Smith, I totally agree about the celebration trophy lifting. It was awful. I couldn't get out of the park quick enough. My ears were sore, not in a good way. It wasn't just old guys like me, Colin, who were moaning about it. There seems to have been a general consensus that Celtic messed their sheets. On Saturday.
Do you know what, Kev? It's just the way it is.
Nah, you're wrong, P. O'Neill. It's no rubbish. It's great at football games at a certain time. I'm not going to argue with you about that. Roll with
it. It's the way it is. Do you know what I mean? Like, we've agreed with this. There's going to be people that don't agree with it. There's people that will see that Celtic can do no wrong. Do you know what it is? It's a game of opinions. Everybody's entitled to them, whether you think they're right or wrong. But the one thing that I don't think anybody can disagree with is it was a fantastic day for James Forrest. Seeing him and then getting presented that trophy, becoming the most distinguished player in Celtic's history. It was just an incredible moment. I had a great day. Met some viewers from Acsom throughout the day. They came up to me. Always great to see that, and great to see that we've got a platform like this where we can discuss the highs and the lows of supporting simply the best and most successful team in Scottish football.
I'm not going down that route, Colin. I'll let you get clipped for that one. Hopefully Paul got out of Celtic Park before me and Colin started ranting. If no, he might not actually get on. Other news, Justin. Seemingly, Jeremy Frimpong is having a medical with Liverpool as we speak. So the board will probably be raising a glass of champagne to the 30% sell-on clause, which is possibly going to be about £6 million.
Yep.
Ian, thank you very much for joining us. It is now tomorrow where you are. So
I'm in the future.
You're in the future, which is great. What's the future like? Is there hoverboards? Is there any hoverboards?
It's positive. It's good.
Good. Colin, thank you very much for joining me on this Monday, and everybody else in the comments. We're nearly 1,500 strong. Thank you very much, and remember, everybody, dinna be bams to each other, especially if you're singing Free for Desire. Dinna be a bam to people that sing that. Thank you very much. Goodbye.